Good evening. I'm now officially calling the Farmington Hills City Council meeting to order for the regular meeting of June 12th, 2023. It's a little after 7:30 p.m. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, and will former council member Teresa Rich lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I would be honored. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next, the roll call.
Mayor Barnett,
Here.
Council Members Bolaware,
Here.
Bridges,
Here.
Bruce,
Here.
Knoll, here, Massey,
Here.
and Newland.
Here.
Thank you.
Next is the approval of the regular session meeting minutes agenda. Dr. Massey?
Madam Mayor, I would move approval of the agenda as published.
Support.
It's been moved by Dr. Massey, seconded by Councilmember Knoll. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. It passes unanimously. Next is a proclamation recognizing June 2023 as LGBTQ+ Pride Month, and we will have Councilmember Newland read that.
Thank you, Mayor. Proclamation for LGBTQ Pride Month, June 2023. Whereas the struggle for dignity and equality for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and questioning LGBTQ people is reflected in the tireless dedication of advocates and allies who strive to forge a more inclusive society. And whereas June is declared as Pride Month to commemorate the June 1969 Stonewall Uprising in Lower Manhattan, targeting LGBTQ patrons and other marginalized people in violation of their civil rights, leading to the birth of the gay rights movement. And whereas LGBTQ Americans, including our neighbors, co-workers, friends, and family members, face discrimination simply for being who they are, and there remain much work to do to extend the promise of our country to every person. And whereas the landmark Supreme Court decision of 2015 guaranteeing marriage equality in all 50 states was a historic victory for LGBTQ Americans, which affirmed our belief that we are all deserve to be treated as equals. And whereas in 2015, the City of Farmington Hills enacted a human rights ordinance stating the city's intent that no person to be denied equal protection of the laws, nor any person to be denied the enjoyment of his or her civil or political rights, or be discriminated against because of actual or perceived race, color, religion, national origin, sex, height, weight, condition of pregnancy, marital status, physical or mental limitation, source of income, family status, sexual orientation, or gender identity. Now there be resolved that Vicki Barnett, Mayor of Farmington Hills, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim June 2023 as LGBTQ Pride Month and encourage our community to eliminate prejudice wherever it exists and to celebrate our great diversity by taking part in the community events throughout June that focus on and celebrate our LGBTQ neighbors. The proclamation will be accepted by Sam Kepi. He is our cultural arts programmer.
Thank you, Council. This is a huge honor for me. You know, I did wear my gayest shirt for the occasion, so this is a big deal. And for community members who may be watching this online or, seeing the agenda online, proclamation of Pride Month, it may seem not like a huge deal, but for the employees of this city and for the community, it is a huge deal to be recognized in this way. And it's great to come to work and be supported. It means a lot. Some of my coworkers were actually witnesses at my own gay wedding in August of last year. So to be supported in this way and to see members of the community show up for some of the Pride events that we've had in the past, and I'm looking forward to more that we're hosting in the future. I feel a certain level of privilege to be in a programming role where I can kind of dictate, the types of events that we have, the types of things that the community may or may not want to go to, but it's important to, gather that information and to have a space for anyone and everyone who may want to participate in our events. I feel super fortunate to also be on the city's DEI council. It feels really meaningful to be able to make that impact, at the ground level. We're getting started right at the beginning, and that's the most rewarding part of this type of work, is to be able to see the results and to engage with not only our colleagues, but also with the community, and I look forward to doing more of that in the future.
Well, we're really thankful you're part of our community here, and the work you do through special services is irreplaceable.
Thank you.
So thank you. Next, we have a proclamation recognizing June 19th, 2023 as National Observance of Juneteenth, which is a new federal holiday.
Yes.
Mr. Bridges.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Whereas the city of Farmington Hills formally acknowledged Juneteenth as a holiday marking the end of slavery in the United States, whereas this year marks the 18th annual State of Michigan Juneteenth Freedom Day recognition, and the city of Farmington Hills commemorates the word of emancipation finally reaching a group of enslaved Africans in Galveston, Texas on June 19, 1865, which was 2.5 years after President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863, stating that all persons held as slaves within the rebellious states are and henceforth shall be free. Whereas following this statement, the June 19th became the emancipation date of those long suffering for freedom. And whereas since then, as the oldest known celebration commemorating the end of slavery in the United States, the tradition of celebrating Juneteenth has remained strong well into the 21st century, recognizing the triumph of the human spirit over the cruelty of slavery and honoring the strength, endurance, and faith of African American successors. Whereas Juneteenth is a day of reflection, renewal, and pride as families and community members gather to celebrate the African American experience and to measure and appreciate the great progress and significant contributions made by African Americans in our society. Whereas the celebration of Juneteenth throughout Farmington Hills and worldwide are designed to acknowledge and honor history while looking toward the future with a renewal of commitment to building coalitions and praying for peace and liberty for all. And whereas on June 17, 2021, President Joseph R. Biden Jr. signed into law Senate Bill 475, making Juneteenth a federal holiday. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Vicki Barnett, the mayor of the city of Farmington Hills, on behalf of City Council, do hereby proclaim June 19, 2023 as Juneteenth and urge everyone to acknowledge the inspirational efforts of African American community in all communities and to applaud our collective commitment to furthering the cause of freedom for all. Here to receive this proclamation is Reverend Dr. Patricia Coleman Burns. She is the pastor of the Farmington African Methodist Episcopal Church. She's also a leader with the Beloved Community Initiative in Farmington Hills.
Thank you.
My remarks. Let me first introduce these two young women who are part of our partnership as for 5 years. 5 years we have been celebrating in Farmington Hills and Farmington area the Juneteenth celebration. I'll make more remarks, but I want them to introduce themselves.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Irene Leeds. I am Executive Director of Conversations on Race, and I've been serving as the Program Manager for this year's Juneteenth celebration.
Good evening. My name is Catherine Bow, and I am the chairperson of Narden Park United Methodist Church, which is right down the street.
And so we have many partners this year, and we continue to look for partnership with Farmington and Farmington Hills, as we are so proud. If you go down the street in front of Narden Park, you will see a beautiful banner that makes us as a city look good. It makes us look like we have a sense of community, a sense of inclusion. And we have a new partner. I didn't tell you, just got one today from the YWCA. And so we continue to grow. You know, first and foremost, I do want to thank the subjects of this celebration, the people who it represents, and the proclamation captures that well, the generations of descendants of enslaved Africans, of which I am one, who were freed by the Emancipation Proclamation for those, as you point out, in the states that had seceded from the Confederacy, but where in the North, those who were enslaved were not freed by the Emancipation Proclamation and Lincoln's executive order. But what we know about that is that no policy, no laws can free a people. People are freed from their spirits, within their souls, and with a dream of what can be. In 2019, John Burns had the vision of bringing Juneteenth to Farmington Hills. And sadly, 6 weeks before Juneteenth, John died. And actually, the day that he died, he was working on Juneteenth. But now Councilwoman Jackie Boulware and Farmington Public School Board member Mabel Fox, while I was mourning, in 6 weeks, put on the first Juneteenth, and many of you were there, I remember, and I thank you for your participation. And even in the midst of COVID, so for 5 years, we have been celebrating Juneteenth. And John's vision was, for those who understand Black English, was, who be we? Who are we? We need to include all of us in every identity and spirit of who we are and represent that inclusion in our city and in our surrounding areas, that our people have a lot to bring to who we are as we move forward into the future. And so we again engage you and thank you for this recognition and pray. You know, I can pray because I'm a pastor. You know, they allow that for pastors, that the cities will join us in the years to come and become partners in this effort. And so I just want to let my boss give just if you don't mind, a few of the things that are unfolding for this week, 5 days of celebration.
So I didn't bring my notes, lucky for you. On the 15th, Thursday, we'll be hosting Dr. Edwin Nichols, who is well known for his work on the way people form cultural paradigms and how we can come to understand that better, to work together better, to understand each other across race or any other kind of difference. On Friday, and that's at 7:30, right? 7:30, or 5:30, sorry. 5:30 to 7:30, and that'll be at Narden Park. Yep, in the sanctuary. On Friday evening, in the Narden Park parking lot, we'll have a family movie night. We'll see The Princess and the Frog with popcorn and snow cones and all that. And that starts at 8:15, 8:30, right in that neighborhood. And then Saturday, rather than try to compete with all the other Juneteenth celebrations that are doing their thing on Saturday, we thought we'd do a fellowship tour of the other Juneteenths. And we can't make it to all of them, but two of our partners, West Bloomfield, is having theirs at the high school, so we'll go there at 10 o'clock. We have a bus arranged, and people are meeting at 10 o'clock in the parking lot and going with us to West Bloomfield, and then around noon or so, we'll go to Novi. At the Novi Public Library, they'll be having a celebration. And next year, we'll expand it. Then Sunday is a healing event, an interfaith healing event that was very popular last year. And Reverend Stancy Adams will be chairing that again. And it's wonderful to bring together intercultural facets of healing. And then Monday is the big event at Narden Park once again. In the parking lot, we'll open with an acknowledgement by one of our partners in the Anishinaabe community, acknowledging the land and our use of it. And then we move into all kinds of activities. We have the Farmington Public Schools Pretty and Precise Steppers. Oh, this is going to be a challenge here. Who else is coming? Charles Green is going to provide jazz piano for us for quite a bit of time. We have light aerobics, we have Learn to Hustle, we have yoga with African drummers.
Food trucks.
Food trucks, lots of food trucks. And some health checks also, including hearing tests. So it's kind of an unusual galley, I think, of events. It sort of appeals to all ages and interests, and there'll be lots of food and family games as well, and I can't think of anything else.
Well, Catherine, would you just give, so if you don't mind, Narden Park's partnership has been continuously over all these years, but to have Catherine on board has been overwhelmingly positive. Just say a few words, please.
Thank you so much. It's free. It's a free event. These are free. That's important to know. And we're welcoming individuals that have their businesses to have tables. And so we have, not only the food, but we have children's games. It's very children, family oriented. And so we're asking for people to stop by, bring their friends. It's going to be a great event. And we've reached out to so many people, but we're excited. This is a great year. We have a lot going on.
Thank you so much. Any questions? Thank you.
No questions.
Thank you so much.
I do have one thing that I want to say. Dr. Burns, it has been a pleasure to meet you and to begin to work with you as we bring the community together in all of its different iterations and the work that you do. And I remember when I first moved to Farmington Hills, Narden Park Church was just a bastion of glowing change-making and positivity. And to see you all together today, it really warms my heart. The city is moving in the right direction through no part of not having you standing there, pushing us along a little bit. So thank you.
Thank you.
And we too miss your beloved husband. He was a great man.
Thank you.
Just one note too, Narden Park has recently made history as well. July 2nd, we'll have the first Black senior pastor coming, and his name is Carter Grimmett. He's well known throughout Michigan. He retired a year and a half ago. And when he got the call, he said, Narden Park. So he's coming back from Texas. So we're really excited because he's going to help us with discussions going forward with the community, with other churches. So I thought I'd say that too.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the Economic Development Corporation's update on the incubator at the Hawk.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for your time tonight. The majority of this update requested by the Economic Development Corporation will be provided by their chairman, Dr. T.R. Carr, and their vice chair, Lou Cantor. The EDC has been working on the proposed incubator space, now known as the hatchery, on the 3rd floor of the Hawk to house business startups within the wet lab industry. Significant headway has been made by city staff and or its contractors in one lab as an initial build-out to prepare the space for entrepreneurs. These improvements include evaluations for the plumbing, mechanical systems, and electrical outlets, lighting, flooring repairs, ceiling tile replacement, and new wall paint. With this white box concept coming to fruition, interested parties have reached out with proposals to occupy the space. At this time, I'll hand it over to T.R. Carr, Chairman of the EDC, and Lou Cantor, Vice Chair, so he can walk you through the hatchery's vision and introduce their exciting tenant interest.
Thank you, Tia. Madam Mayor, members of the council, it's our privilege to be here to give you an update on the hatchery at the Hawk. This has been a process that's been involved in quite some time. We'll walk you through it. One thing we want to say at the very beginning is that this concept is based upon the idea that the 3rd floor of the Hawk will become a revenue center, not a cost center. We have been working diligently, receiving evaluations from the public service consultants out of Lansing, Michigan. This has been a lengthy process spanning several years, and we believe that this will generate revenues both for the city of Farmington Hills in terms of revenues at the Hawk, but beyond that, our goal is to see these businesses begin to develop and relocate into areas around Farmington Hills itself, because literature suggests that incubators spawn small companies that will locate within 5 miles of their initial place. Also, just to remind the members of the City Council that because of the work that the council did and the relationships that we've been able to build with our state representatives, the city received a grant of $750,000 to be able to help facilitate renovations in that. So we want to thank our representatives from that area. It's really been a good experience for us. And so Lou has a few comments, and then we're going to just move back and forth this evening, and you can follow along. And if you have any questions, we'll be glad to entertain them at the end of our meeting. Lou.
Thank you. Good to see you all again. I just wanted to tell you that we've been working together for 6 years to work on this ever since the Harrison High School first became available. And the uniqueness of the chem labs being made available and the possibility of losing them to a wrecking ball was completely unacceptable to us. That gave us the idea that a life sciences and business incubator could come in and use that space without any, proportionally speaking, cost compared to building it new and fresh from the ground up. So with that, I and the rest of the EDC membership joined together, jumped into it, and interestingly, back at 6 years ago, plus a little bit, when it first became available, Dr. Ken Massey was the one that suggested that we don't want to let this area go to waste. And that's what really turned us on to go. And he was our liaison to the EDC at the time. So now we're close to welcoming our first tenant, going to be in there first part of July. And I want to thank you all for your support through this whole 6 years. We've gone through, as you know, lots of presentations, lots of discussions. And I just want to make sure that you know that we appreciate your support in making Farmington Hills a place where our kids don't want to leave and a place that attracts new people in. And that's what it's all about. That's what we all work together to do. And I thank you for it. So with that, what we did was we developed a PowerPoint presentation to be used as a marketing tool and developed into a flyer, so to speak, a handout to people. And we're also, by the way, developing a website. We've found a website developer to create a website for the Hawk. And so at this point, what we'd like to do, TR and I would like to go through that with you, if that's correct. Am I on the right time frame here?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
We just want to reinforce the fact that the EDC, Economic Development Corporation, our goal is to ensure a long-term economic development strategy for the city of Farmington Hills. We work with Tia, the Director of Economic Development for the city. We work with the city staff. And so this is very much a team effort. It's not something that any of us do individually, but it's something that we do collectively. This has resulted in the Hawk Hatchery, which is one piece of the overall economic development strategy for Farmington Hills. Just remember that we have to work hard. We have to run fast just to stay still in the area of economic development. We are competing with other cities, we're competing with other states, and we are competing with other countries. So we are competing in a global environment, and that's what our goal is to do, is to help enhance the marketability and the success of Farmington Hills. So the Hawk Business Incubator is like no other.
What's interesting too about it, before we get into it specifically, there are multiple incubators in southeastern Michigan. And life sciences are what we're talking about generally here because of the chemical resistant tops of the work tables and that sort of thing. So we're talking about a life sciences, biochemical type of a thing. And there are multiple incubator facilities in southeastern Michigan, but you know what? Every one of them are filled up. Every one of them are turning people away. Every one of them are happy to have this as an opportunity to refer people to. It's an unbelievable situation that I've experienced for the first time in my life. I've been in a competitive world my entire life. And these people don't compete. They help one another. They're looking to place their clients that they can't help at the Hawk. They're coming to us. So we're several weeks away from our first tenant coming in. That's how good things are going. But like no other is the concept that we've discovered, accidentally almost, because like no other, when you look at all of those other incubators out there, there's nothing else like the Hawk. What other one is in an activity center? What other one has a swimming pool? What other one has a football field next door, a track? There's nothing else like it, like no other. So it's a mixed use facility that we can make specific use of for our incubator and also have available for our tenants to use for other purposes.
If you notice the slide, one thing it does say is that we're dedicated to your success. Our goal is to make tenants that come in to the hatchery to succeed by providing expert training, providing mentoring opportunities so that they can, in fact, succeed. There was an article in the Farmington Press a couple of weeks ago that talked about incubators in southeastern Michigan, and it said they make a lot of mistakes. That's why there's so many of them, because they don't know they're entering into new ventures, it's high risk, and they make mistakes. Our goal is to help them minimize the mistakes they might make so that they can continue to be an active role. So we might begin by saying it's at the third floor of the Hawk. We will be showing you some slides. I know a lot of you have not been able to tour the third floor. We have one room that has been prepared for a tenant. We'll have slides of that room. We have 8 more rooms. The city staff is in the process of cleaning up so that we can have other tenants. So Lou, we'll talk about some of the amenities.
We're talking about 30,000 square feet here. There's a total of 100,000 square feet on that third floor. We're talking about 30,000 square feet. So you can see the ability to grow and expand and help a lot of companies. But go ahead with this is one of the first things you see is the fact that those of you who've been, and all of you have been to the Hawk, go in on the first floor on the east side of the building. This is the west side of the building that you're looking at. and that's where the entrance to the hatchery will be.
One thing we might say that the separate entrance and a separate parking lot for the hatchery is essential for success. As we bring tenants in, they need to have a place that they know their employees can park without having to fight for parking spaces. So the fact that we have a separate parking lot that can be dedicated to users of the hatchery, and then we have a separate entrance, so they will not be coming in and disturbing people on the first floor engaging in recreational activities. So this provides security, and it's a linchpin for the success of our tenants.
And all of these lab spaces are custom. This is a picture of one side of a four-sided room, obviously, but three of those sides have, or two of those sides have the lab space on each side. And so these are completely customizable for the client that comes in. And they can share the different workspaces, or they can say, this is our workspace, we need it separate from the others.
One of the great strengths that we have, you'll notice we have the hood here to ventilate fumes. There's the eye wash station. In terms of the infrastructure for this particular third floor utilization, much of it's already there. We do not have to do a lot of extensive remodeling for most of the companies, but we will be able to customize it to fit their needs. So you'll notice we have ample space. Each of these rooms is around 1,500 square feet. We do not anticipate that every company will use 1,500 square feet. Much will use smaller, but we are flexible. We can adapt.
That's the significance of the whole thing. If you're a new company looking for something, a realtor isn't going to want to talk to you because they don't know whether you're going to be around 6 months from now. Okay, so we have that flexibility, and we can build it out to their needs, and we can expand it as they grow. Or if they say, oh my God, we don't need that much space, we got them covered too.
One thing, just as you look at since many of you may not have been up to the third floor, these are pictures of the large classroom. There are 8 of these classrooms, but between the classrooms, there is unique opportunities for shared space, working space. They can put centrifuges, refrigerating units, whatever is necessary, but these run the entire length of the operating. So this is a highly flexible space. Also, we have one of the great things that Lou is mentioning is that this is unique, and we have the makerspace. Lou.
Well, the makerspace provided to the city, funded by Bosch, which is, of course, Special Services, one of their great successes, has been a great success to the community at large. And we suggest that with special, and you see the asterisks up there at the end of the developing prototypes, the key is that the incubator tenant can't just go down there and say, hey, we want to use the lathe or whatever else. They have to make space. I mean, they have to make a reservation, and they have to have a membership type of a thing. So they're going to be following the rules of the makerspace and Special Services, along with the child care situation is the same. All again, keep thinking like no other in your mind, because nobody else out there has a makerspace type of a situation or a child care type of a facility. That we propose that as we get more and more clients coming in, we'll be raising more and more revenue to hire more and more people. When I say more and more, don't get scared. We're talking about a little more and more. Part-timers to take care of those kids and that sort of thing, if necessary. And it's also not a full 8-hour day. We're talking about an hour here and an hour there. So.
That's important. Revenue comes from rent. Revenue comes from an increased utilization of the Hawk facilities itself. So again, we just emphasize that child care access to makerspace requires separate membership fees from any tenant that's involved there. One of the key things is we have top-line equipment to share. There's existing equipment there provided by Bosch. At the same time, the grant that the state of Michigan gave us allows us to acquire certain expensive equipment that can be shared, and we work with tenants to decide what equipment should be purchased, such as centrifuges, unique refrigeration that deals with very low freezing points, hoods, other equipment as needed. There's a plethora of equipment that may be needed, and we have the ability to assist the tenants and acquiring that information.
Networking is a major factor of having a incubator type of an environment. And networking is abundant in the Hawk because you've got this stuff downstairs, you've got the snack bar, you've got the pool, you've got tables that people can sit around at, you've got hallways with gathering places and that sort of thing. So that's all important, and we have that there. And then you look out that window there and you see the track, you see the football fields, you see all the other stuff that when these people get brain freeze or whatever it is that they get, and they need to take a break, they go out there and run a mile. They're gonna run it, not me, not you. And so it's there for them, again, making it unique.
One thing we would say is that as we've met with individuals who have toured the hatchery before we were open and ready for operation, they were very impressed with the workout facilities, with the track facilities and other facilities, because it means that their employees can be able to come in before lunch, they can come in before work, they can stay late, they can work out, and that becomes a very strong draw for the potential tenants. Also, the pool itself, one of a recreational pool that is available. So we're saying that the Hawk Hatchery is like no other, and it's coming soon.
And what happens when they graduate? We release them into the community, and they travel some 5 miles on average. They stay within a regional area. They create businesses, and they pay taxes, and they employ our people.
I would say,
win-win-win.
Yeah. As of this date, we've not had to publicize the hatchery at all. People are coming to us. We've had individuals from Small Business Development Center from over Grand Rapids come over. We've had a lot of interest in it, and we're not yet fully open. So that is an indication of the demand that we have. What we'll do is we'll take some questions, if you have any questions about the hatchery, and then I'll make just a couple more comments about the future of the EDC before we come back and make a full presentation about the EDC sometime this fall. Any questions you might have?
Any questions? Nope.
Nope. Thank you all again.
Thank you all. Just a couple of comments to keep you apprised of what's going on with the Economic Development Corporation. We have been consumed for the last several years with getting the hatchery off the ground. We were delayed somewhat because, as we all were, due to the COVID epidemic. Then we focused on doing this as a major activity for us. Now that it's launched, we're now recognized by the state of Michigan, the hatchery is, as a standalone business. We're in the process of acquiring 501c3 nonprofit status from the Internal Revenue Service. We're doing that. So there's a lot going on, but in terms of the EDC, we have had Tia. I want to thank her for that. You can step in. She might want to add something. We have had joint meetings with the Corridor Improvement Authority, looking at the overall needs for the city of Farmington Hills. We've met down on the southeastern side of Grand River. Tia did arrange for a bus tour. We had 2 buses taking local entrepreneurs, local business leaders for a tour of the Grand River corridor and the Orchard Lake corridor, showing what options might exist. So we are being very, very active, and Tia is being a real partner with us in terms of doing that. Our goal on part of the Economic Development Corporation is to assist and support the Economic Development Director with business expansion and retention. We believe that our future is bright, and we believe that through working together with EDC, with the Economic Development Director, with the City Council, with the staff, City Manager's Office, we can really build a really solid foundation for the future of Farmington Hills. We're also beginning to work with the Master Plan Update that's in process for the city of Farmington Hills. That's really critical for us because the plan was established some years ago, and we need to be flexible so that we can meet the needs of residents as they now exist, at the same time allow us to be flexible so that we can incur future economic growth. So again, thank you for your time. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to meet with you individually, but we do hope to come back in the fall and give you a full and complete briefing on the activities of the Economic Development Corporation. So again, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Any comments?
I'm happy to make a comment.
If you would like to, or we can move
love to.
on, either way.
Really quickly, the work that's going on at the hatchery has been moving very slow and very deliberately as we've been doing this, and that's why council has heard a number of different presentations that we've gone forward. And a big piece of that was getting the grant from the state. So we want to thank our state rep, Samantha Steckloff, because she was instrumental in helping to do that. And now that the first lab is open, and we will see something else on our agenda coming up here, things are starting to really take off. And when Mr. Cantor mentioned that there are other life science incubators, and this is life science and high tech, that would be allowed, he's not kidding. The MEDC turns away from all of the incubators that we have 6 to 10 companies a week. And now they know that this is happening, so it's really could be very beneficial as we start to really fill this up. So I just want to say the EDC and Ms. Brockway has done just amazing work at getting this moved forward.
Okay, thank you.
I just make one comment, addition I might make, is our first tenant really fits the model. They were created in January, February of this year as a new business. They plan to be in the hog for, 3 to 5 years at most, and they have plans to relocate inside Farmington Hills. So that really is exactly what we're looking for. We might add that last fall, we had companies from California with operations in Southeast Michigan talking about it. So we have not publicized this at all, but people are coming to us because they're being referred to Farmington Hills, and that's the great thing about it. We're here to build opportunities, growth, and economic development within the city of Farmington Hills. So thank you very much.
Thank you. That brings us now to correspondence. Did anybody receive correspondence yes, Dr. Massey?
So this piece of correspondence, I think, was shared with you, Mayor, came from Ed and Julia Hill, and it is they have a lot of pride right now because their daughter Avery she won the Miss Teen Michigan pageant this year, and I wanted to announce that there was a lot of hard work that went into that, and I was hoping that perhaps at our next meeting we could recognize her for that achievement, maybe a proclamation or something.
I think so.
Yes, great undertaking. So I just wanted to mention that to the rest of the council.
Thank you. Anyone else have any correspondence? I think we all received some of the correspondence from people on Verona and a few other streets. Those are coming up under the consent agenda. So it should be pretty pro forma. I'm giving you a hint. But if you would like to speak, there's a blue slip back there that you can fill out, but I think we kind of all know where we're probably going to go. Next item is the consent agenda. I will turn it over now to Mayor Pro Tem Randy Bruce to read it. All items under the consent agenda are considered routine, administrative, or non-controversial by the City Council and will be enacted in one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so requests, in which event the items may be removed from the consent agenda for further consideration. So I will now turn it over to Dr. Bruce.
Thank you, Mayor. Number 10, recommended approval of amending the contract amount to Swanson Company to include additional quantity to Heritage Hills and Wedgewood Commons Subdivision Road Reconstruction Program Phase 3, extending the contract to a total amount of $5,344,952.56, CMR 62372.
To include those two streets.
Number 11, recommended approval of purchase of 2 BMW motorcycles for the Police Department from Motorcycles of Southeast Michigan in the amount not to exceed $56,925.68, CMR 62373. Number 12, recommended approval of award of bid for generator preventative maintenance to American Generator Sales and Service, LLC, in the amount of $11,900 per year for 1 year with extensions, CMR 62374. Number 13, recommended approval of request for employment under Section 10.01A of the City Charter for a Hawk Concessions attendant. Number 14, recommended approval of a request for employment under Section 10.01A of the city charter for an art and music camp specialist. Number 15, recommended approval of city council budget study session meeting minutes of May 15th, 2023. Number 16, recommended approval of city council budget study session meeting minutes of May 16th, 2023. And number 17, recommended approval of city council regular session meeting minutes of May 22nd, 2023.
Okay, is there a motion? Yes, Mr. Bridges.
Madam Mayor, I move that council approve consent agenda item 10 through 14 as read by Mayor Pro Tem Randy Bruce.
It's been moved by Mr. Bridges and seconded by Ms. Knoll that we approve 10 through 14 on the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote.
Councilmembers Newland,
Yes.
Bolaware,
Yes.
Massey,
Yes.
Knoll,
Yes.
Bridges,
Yes.
Bruce,
Yes.
and Mayor Barnett.
Yes, the streets will be paved this year, added to the agenda, because they are in terrible shape. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. Is there another motion? Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve items under the consent agenda 15 through 17 as read by the Mayor Pro Tem.
I support.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Knoll, seconded by Councilmember Bolaware. Any discussion? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote.
Councilmembers Bolaware,
Yes.
Massey,
Yes.
Knoll,
Yes.
Bridges,
Abstain.
Bruce,
Yes.
Newland,
Yes.
and Mayor Barnett.
Yes. Okay, that takes us through the consent agenda. Next item is public questions and comments. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes for any item of city business that is not currently on the agenda. We hope that you will keep it on the shorter side because we have the budget and a few other hearings that we have to go through tonight. So if you would like to speak, I will now open the public questions and comments.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, City Administrator, and all of the other important people up there on the dais. I wanted to appeal to the residents in Farmington Hills. Whenever you hear a siren, just know that someone in public safety is risking their lives for you, a loved one, or a neighbor. I witnessed a car almost hit a fire truck, blowing the horn, lights flashing, doing exactly what they were supposed to do, and the car just came and the fire truck kind of had to swerve. We have to keep our public safety officers safe. And wherever you have to go, it's not as important as you yielding or stopping for that public safety vehicle. The law in Michigan says you pull over to the right-hand curve of the roadway and you remain stopped until the vehicle has passed. That should not be difficult. So can you please stop for our public safety, including EMS? Because the life that they're trying to save could be someone in your family. That's the first thing that I want to say. The second thing I wanted to bring up to council is we do a great job with the city business, and I like the fact that we're talking about the DEI. But what I would like to see is more participation in just discussions about it. I want to thank Dr. Ken Massey for all that you do in the Farmington Hills community. I remember 10 years ago when I got my house, you were one of the first groups of people that I talked to. But my husband and I had a chance to sit down and talk with you in detail, if you remember, at Giannopolis, before the institution on 12 Mile and Middle Belt went out of business. And you just impressed me with your knowledge, the way you welcomed me into the city, all the things that you told me about Farmington Hills. and it's true. I would like to see more discussion about welcoming people into the city. We can have all of the events and give out all the proclamations, but there has to be that inclusive dialogue. So I just want to thank you for what you did for me and how you made me feel coming into the city. And I can say that I've never had a bad experience coming to Farmington Hills City Hall for anything. Every single department head walked me through the process, from the assessor's office to the paper that I needed to sign to declare my PRE, all of those things. It was a very wonderful experience, but if we could just have the welcoming a new person into the community and that dialogue, making them feel more comfortable, showing them how to access the city departments, I think that would be great. So all of you that made a difference in how I felt when I came to Farmington Hills, I really appreciate you. Thank you so much. But please stop for the emergency vehicles, people. We don't want accidents to our public safety workers, and we certainly don't want accidents to you. So pull over to the right-hand curb of the roadway, stop, let them pass, and then you can proceed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Anybody else for public questions and comments? Good evening.
Hi, good evening. My name is Joe Babcock. I'm the president of the Heritage Hills Homeowners Association. Mr. Bridges lives in my community. Mr. Massey, Dr. Massey, I'm sorry, we've met before you came to our neighborhood. And anyway, I really appreciate your time. And you see behind where I was sitting here, these are a bunch of my neighbors that came in support of the your voting on item number 10. I just wanted to, first of all, thank you for, I believe it was unanimous approval of this item number, but I wanted to just sort of implore that that you speak to engineering and have some accountability. Not you take accountability, but make engineering take some accountability for the road conditions even after they were repaired. We have some issues with pitting in the roads. We've got some cracks in the roads that haven't been properly repaired. At our Sutter's Hill and Heritage Hills intersection, there's a large crack that, rather than holding the construction company accountable to repair it properly, replace it, tear it out and replace it with new concrete, they replaced it with a black mastic, like a silicone type caulk. And in the long run, I'm not sure that that's an appropriate repair. On Oak Valley, which was just completed 2 or 3 weeks ago, there's already a crack. And I was told that that should be handled, but Sutter's Hill was a year ago, I believe, or 2 years, within the last 2 years. I think the warranty is only 2 years old, so we need to use those warranties that the contractors are paying for it rather than our tax money to fix those issues. I wanted to mention that you know, the water main, the Verona was a big issue. The water main break in 2017 really made Verona almost impassable. And we were told, our neighborhood was told, that Great Lakes Water Authority would be held accountable to fix Verona because of their water main break. That didn't happen. Now it's rolled into the city taxes as part of the millage. So now we're paying for something that Great Lakes Water Authority probably should have taken care of and didn't. And then it broke again 4 years later, 4 years and 1 week after the first break. Again, they didn't fix it, so we're paying for it, which I'm glad it's getting taken care of. I just would like to implore again that there's some more accountability given to the contractors or whatever, sorry. That's why we have the contracts. That's why we have the warranties. And if we're not using them, then it's more money out of our pockets, your pockets, and my neighbors' pockets. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
We have Ms. Mondora here, who is our Public Services Director. And can I put you two together for just a brief few minutes, and we'll continue on with the agenda? And she's the person to talk to about all of those things and what we're doing about it, and I'm sure she'll go after the contractors when possible.
Just make one comment, could. Joe, we want to thank, you've been a president of our association, how many years now? 5? 6 years. 6 years.
Oh my God, how much punishment do you want?
Thank you for your volunteer, this is a volunteer job, and we appreciate you, and I know the entire subdivision, thank you for your service, so I wanted you to know that, okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay, we'll put you two in touch. Okay, anybody else for public questions and comments? Seeing no one, I will now close the public question and comment section, and we will move on to council member comments and announcements. Ms.
I'll
Boulware?
start. First off, I want to thank all the residents who live in Verona for all their wonderful emails, correspondence. Again, I was moved, of course, anytime we vote on things, I usually drive. So I thank everyone for the invite to come on over, but I would have been up anyway. But it was also roads that got me interested in running for office because I was part of the special assessments. And the special assessments were going to be very burdensome to the residents in my area, their budgets. And so then now we have the millage. So I'm very pleased that we're now able to do so many roads because we do have the millage. But the one thing that was it was an interesting email that I received regarding talking about being able to teach a child how to ride a bicycle. They wouldn't be able to do that the way the roads are now. And that was the same thing that I heard from someone on my street also, that, Mayor, see what you can do because the road's got to be repaved, but we don't want to pay for it. But that's something, it is a life event that cannot be replaced. So I'm so happy and pleased that we're able to do this for all the residents of Farmington, to be able to repair roads when we can. The other comment is Art on the Grand. Congratulations. It was a great event. It was well attended. I was absolutely amazed by the number of local residents we have from both Farmington Hills there. I mean, almost every other booth was a local resident. So it was great to showcase all the talent we have in the city, as well as our young artists who also had a section too, and they had some really good stuff. So remember, don't miss Art on the Grand next year and do shopping.
Jackie?
Yes. Preferably. You know, I'm the city council liaison to our art commission. And last week, you know, and I truly believe that art is a window to a community's soul. And last week we had 2 metal sculptures placed outside the theater entrance of the Hawk. And it was created and placed there by the artist Ken Thompson. And our art commissioner, Ted Hatfield, was really instrumental in making that happen and helping with the installation. So if you're there and you're going through that entrance, please take a look at it because it's complemented by what it's called a scrap shirt tree, which is salvaged metal from the Hawk Harrison High School, when they were renovating it for the Hawk. And they're 2 very impressive metal sculptures. And I ask that you look at them if you go to that entrance. And also at the Hawk, the Art Commission commissioned a mural outside of the makerspace to define that space because it was before a little difficult to determine exactly where it was located. And this really makes the makerspace stand out. And it's a beautiful mural. And then earlier in our council session, we had Dr. Patricia Coleman Burns come up and speak about all the great programming that is going on in our city the coming weekend. And also at our Farmington Community Library at 2 o'clock. They are also having a Juneteenth event, followed that evening at 6 o'clock. At our Hawk, we're bringing in a Detroit-based jazz band called the Ja, and with the support of Mercedes-Benz Financial Services and the band starts at 6 o'clock, that evening. And I'd like to thank the Mercedes-Benz Financial Services for helping make that possible. The band, it's just a wonderful, great band. They were at the Art on the Grand, I believe it was Saturday, around in that evening. And they were also at downtown Farmington during the, I think it's the Harvest Moon Festival. And they're just a great band. The music is, whether you're a jazz music lover or not, I'm sure you're going to love their performance. It will be opened with a poetry reading by one of the city-based poets. So I hope to see, as many of you that can make it come out to one of those 3 events that's happening to celebrate Juneteenth, which is the official day is Monday, June 19th, 2020 on Monday.
Okay, anyone else? Dr. Massey?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and mine is just really quick. Our Farmington Safe group has been involved in 2 really important events in the last week. One was May Day, which is, well, it's held in June. It's May Day as in, there's a May Day, there's a problem. And it's held at East Middle School for 8th graders who are now moving on into high school. And there are a series of different classes that are offered to these 8th graders that help them prepare for some of the things they may run into in high school. And SAFE presented on mental health and some of the challenges, how to identify potential threats and so forth, and what you can do about that, and how do you connect with resources. I would love to see it if each one of the middle schools did the same program. Currently, each school gets to pick their own, and this one was the 9th one that I did for East, and each one is just, it's fun. The kids have these young people, let me call them that, have some really interesting questions and concerns about what they're going to face. So we hope that they take some of the resources with them. And the other, last Wednesday here in City Council chambers, we held an event on the military veterans and their families as military transition back into non-military jobs and the stresses that puts on their families, who are really their first responders, if you will. Well attended, and actually CBS News came out, CBS Detroit came out and did a piece on it. And as was with the youth one done in April, Farmington Hills was put out to the public as doing the right thing. So it's been a busy week.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, then we shall move on to city manager update.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just wanted to let everybody know that the city has partnered with the Red Cross to hold a blood drive that will be held from 8 a.m. to 7:45 p.m. on Wednesday, June 14th, here at the Costic Center. To schedule an appointment to donate blood, you can register at www.redcrossblood.org. I also want to extend a personal invitation to all of our residents to the city's 50th anniversary celebration. That will be from 7 to 10 p.m. at Founders Sports Park. Hope you all can make it to come and enjoy some live music, bouncers for the kids, a rock climbing tower, history of the city tent, which I find very interesting. Hopefully it'll be fun for everybody. There'll also be several food and drink vendors and much more. The fireworks will begin just after 10 p.m., so please come and enjoy the evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next is the public hearing. Yes.
Just so the residents know, is all of this posted on the city website?
It is. It is also posted on the city's website at www.fhgov.com.
Thank you. In case they want to know the name of the band and the different food vendors that are going to be there, that's all on it.
All there.
Okay. Next is what we wait for every single year at this time, a public hearing to consider adoption of the 2023-2024 fiscal year budget and 2023 property tax millage rates, CMR 6-23-68. Mr. Scribola.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. I'm going to put the presentation up here. All righty. Yes, thank you very much. I'm going to provide you with a presentation that you've already seen the previous version of this. It reflected the proposed budget. There have been some changes made per your input at the study sessions from a couple of weeks ago. And so this will reflect those changes that you will see here in a second. So I'm going to go through this a little faster than I did the first time, since you have all seen it before, and it was at a public meeting. So first of all, this is the budget process. We are all the way down at the bottom of the public hearing and adoption of proposed budget resolution and tax rates, as you mentioned. And the here we go, taxable values are increasing by 6.5%. I really want to promote this as a good news budget in the sense that we have seen a very dramatic increase in property tax values in the last couple of years. And the budget reflects some more of the fulfillment of needs that we've had for public safety and for other needs, infrastructure needs and operational needs of the city. And so we'll go through that in brief. So 6.5%, that's higher than the 5% cap under the Proposal A limits for growth in property tax values. That's because we've also had what's called uncappings, which go into the property tax roll in addition to the 5% cap. And uncappings is what happens when properties sell. So we've had strong sales in the community, not only a strong number of sales, but also strong values as well. So a little bit of a decrease in personal property tax value. Don't let that shake you. That's an interplay between the infusion of new personal property equipment for businesses, but also those limitations under the old state statute passed in 2013 that has phased out a lot of the personal property tax for industrial property across the state. So you have seen a 7.5% increase in commercial, 6.85% increase in residential, 6.3% increase in industrial. So strong across the board growth, and personal property is only at 1/20, 5.4% of the total. So we won't be impacted this year by headly millage rollback. That's because of the high inflationary factor. The bad news is we have inflation. The good news is that means we won't see a rollback of our millage rates. As a result, that's the first time we've had that happen this way in 7 years. So taxable values are projected to grow approximately 5% in '25, that's next year, and then 2% over the ensuing years. Now, caveat being that this is a good news budget, but the storm clouds are that with the inflation of property tax values that we've seen in the last few years, there could be a snapback, as we've talked about in the previous budget cycle and this budget cycle, where inflated values may fall back down. You could see that in the commercial sector due to vacancies. If remote work continues to be a big thing, there's not a snapback in terms of commercial vacancy or occupancy rather. And you could also see residential property values fall by anywhere from 5 to 20% in a worst case scenario, depending upon what's happening, how our region is impacted by the global interplay between demand for houses, short supply, and the fallback perhaps of some of these inflationary values we've seen. Millage rates are going to be pretty steady. They're down by 0.0498. That's not because of the headly, of course, as I mentioned, but it's due to the economic development millage. Economic development millage produces no greater than $50,000 for the promotion of property, economic property, and business property that is around the city. And so every year our property tax values go up, and that rate needs to go down to keep that right at about $50,000. The second thing is the refuse removal millage. The new GFL waste removal contract saw a pretty big reduction in our outlays for waste removal. So again, the same kind of thing happens. You see a big increase in property tax values, a little bit of a reduction in the cost, and therefore the millage rate needs to go down. Here's a table of our millage rates. I just want to draw your attention to the pipe kind of in the middle of the the table there, last tax year. So the last time that we'll be able to tax on these current millages before they have to be voted on for renewal would be 2024 for the early road millage of 2014, 2028 for the parks millage, 2031 for the public safety millage voted on just last 2 years ago, actually. Wow, time flies, doesn't it? And then 2025 for the 2015 public safety millage. So we have a sequence of the road millage coming up in 24, coming up after 24, that is, and the public safety millage coming up after 25. Your tax dollar at work, this is based on last year's taxes, since we have all the full summer and winter rates for last year. And you can see that the city taxes for whether you're in Farmington, Walled Lake, or Clarenceville is somewhere around 40% of your total tax bill. The rest of it being divided up largely to education and some to county and other. So revenue assumptions real quick. Property taxes, as mentioned last year, or this current year rather, going up by 1.5. That's going to hit at 1.5 million. This next year going up by 1.9 million. So strong growth there. State share of revenue, we budgeted and projected, are still projecting a decrease of about $1 million. It's because we had a one-time bump in 21-22 because of the recognition of the 2020 census growth in our population. So it was bound to come back down after we had that 1 year true-up from the state. And so this next year, we're projected to see a very small change in state share of revenue. Recreation user charges, strong growth there. Not only have we seen a comeback from the post-COVID boom, as it were, people coming back to indoor crowd facilities and things of that nature, fitness facilities being utilized quite a bit, but also we're instituting, based on the sports facilities company recommendations, indexing our rates for users and our fees to keep current with the inflation of goods and services that we're realizing. And so that's a good thing, and that's going to help to start to close that fiscal gap. So fees, the reason I put fees in there is because the council asked that we explore the increase of ALS fees so that we have a more equitable capture of ALS fees versus the service for advanced life support. As we may recall, back in 1997, the community put into place community city-provided ALS services, and so that was an effort to provide low-cost services to people in need of those services, and the amount of fees that we established were just a fraction of the cost. Was never meant to be, certainly not a moneymaker, but actually a very largely subsidized service. And now we're just adjusting those fees to make them a little more current with what you see in the region. So
For the people watching at home, ALS means Advanced Life Support.
well, advanced life support, thank you very much.
This is our ambulance services.
Thank you very much. I usually make a point of that. Thanks for pointing that out. So the increase here is only $500,000. Could be more, could very well be $1 million. Depends on utilization rate. We'll see how that works out, but we want to be conservative in our budgetary assumption, particularly as it's the first year that we're instituting this increase. So the general fund revenue is decreasing 0.9 million or 1.3%. That's largely because of the expiration of the ARPA grants, or SLFRF, I believe is the other acronym that's used. That's the 8.911 million that we received over 2 years. So that's running out about the first quarter of this year, of this upcoming year rather. So otherwise, we're seeing, as I mentioned before, pretty strong increases in revenue across the board. So property taxes and state share of revenue comprise 2/3 of the general fund's $71.6 million revenue budget. The other third is other stuff, as you can see there, and I won't read that. So state share of revenue, we saw that the third pipe from the right, that 1 year bump from the 2020 census. So otherwise, you can see a pretty big recovery from the doldrums of the Great Recession, where we're all the way down to 5.65 million. Now we're back up to 8.7 million. Still missed that, what that growth would have been. We would be sitting with more like 14, 15 million had the state not whacked that legislatively back in the aughts, but it is what it is. So it has been positive for the last 10 years. General fund revenues, this is up, as I mentioned, a little bit over the proposed budget, was 71.1, now it's $71.6 million due to the ALS fee increase. Otherwise, it remains the same. Expenditure assumptions, salaries and wages. This is information you've already seen. Non-bargain for Teamsters Dispatch Fire 4%, Police Patrol and Command at 5%. ASME now actually TPOAM, I should say, is expiring, and so we'll see what that bears. But we have some money set aside for that. So medical insurance slated to go up by 4% a year, and the transfer to capital improvement fund is actually 5.1 million this year, and then goes up to 7.1 and 6.8. The reason why it's at 5.1 is that our drains projects, the total drain projects were slated to be at about 6.5 million and are actually around 2.2 million. That's because some of the projects that were slated for this upcoming year in last year's plan have been deferred as we work with the neighborhoods to figure out how to prioritize those projects in the best way. General fund expenditures, 76.1 million expenditure budget is 1.7 million or 2.3% higher than the projected actual expenditures. So that takes into account the reopening of the defined benefit retirement system, which is cost neutral over the long term. We're actually seeing a 1-year savings because we're seeing no outlay from the general fund into people's 401A accounts, and the defined benefit annual required contribution has not yet been calculated, and when it is, that'll be calculated for 24-25. So 1 year, bit of a respite there from that. It'll all even out over the long term. So we indicated investments in staff training of about $300,000 for skills, competency, job performance, and culture, including DEI, and also increases in fire staffing of about $400,000 in the general fund to restore 24/7 operations to Station 3 down on Grand River, in addition to police and fire staffing in the Public Safety Millage Fund of $0.8 million, which actually utilizes excess funding that was being generated in the Public Safety Millage Fund due to the increases in property tax values that we talked about before. And that maintains a 20% fund balance in the Public Safety Millage Fund, which has been normal for the Public Safety Millage Fund, so pretty much status quo. So public safety, police and fire, and court expenditures comprise 38% of the general fund budget. Pretty typical, and about half of the budget is used up for public services, special services, planning, and community development, and another 13% is used for transfers to other funds, primarily for capital and debt. So here's that table showing you what I just talked about a second ago. And here's a general fund summary. I just want to draw your attention to the fact that the last audited year, 21-22, that's the second item from the top, with a ending fund balance of 47.2 million. That's 70% of expenditures. That's pretty high. And so as you can see, we have a planned spend down of those reserve dollars down to something in the 37% range at the bottom. And that's still a very healthy fund balance. Oh, and I also want to just draw attention to one more thing here. You can see in 23-24, change in fund balance, $4.49 million. That's about $4.5 million. Our structural deficit had been in the $6.2 million range thanks to the indexing of fee increases in special services. That's already starting to take a bite out of that, which is great. And then you can see that also because of the reduced outlay to capital, that's drawn it all the way down to 4.5 million. The next year, 24-25, you see a little bit of a bump as some of those road projects come back on board. And then in 25-26, it kind of levels out to what is the new normal for the moment, $5 million. And then we'll start chipping away at that as the next phase of the special services rebalancing plan gets into play, which is remarketing, rebranding, and getting more and more people into our, especially into the Hawk facility and recreation programs that drive up revenue from other users. Alrighty, here's another look at general fund expenditures. Oops, I think I went the wrong way, sorry. Okay, this is another look at the general fund balance. and optimizing capital investments. So we talked about the catch-up here. We talked about that at the last meeting. And so over the next 6 years, we're going to optimize our mix of cash and debt financing. This year, we're not issuing any debt. We issued $7 million of debt in the current year. No debt in this year is needed because of the drain projects falling off for 1 year. And over the next 5 years, we anticipate seeing a few $1 million a year, and we'll adapt and adopt that number according to the conditions on the ground, economic conditions, the cost of debt, and things of that nature. And so be prepared for flexibility there. That's the watchword. But as we invest in these catch-up projects and drains, these are 75-year facilities that we're investing in with a 15 or 20-year amortization of debt at a pretty low cost, even with interest rates being higher than they have been recently. It's still a pretty cheap rate of money, and so a very good deal for 75-year assets like drains. Special Services Study Update, I just talked about that, so I won't read this whole thing here, but I just want to mention a couple of bullet points. So as I mentioned, increasing fees by 3% a year to catch up with recent inflation, that's one recommendation of sports facilities companies, and that is, and I emphasize companies because they are a conglomerate of different companies and partners under the umbrella of Evan Ellis Corporation. So they have a lot of different services they provide, including consulting. And second thing being increasing membership and participation in special services through improved marketing and branding. And the last item that's recommended by SFC, it's all subject to the City Council's review and disposition of how you want to move forward on this aspect. But they're recommending the construction of a Hawk Annex over at the Hawk property next to the Hawk building to replace the aging caustic center. To be paid for by a dedicated millage that would be put before the voters for their approval. That is, again, that is a proposal by our third-party consultant. That is only that, and is subject to much study, discussion, and future decision-making by the City Council. So we do recommend that you put study to these questions and with ultimate direction to city staff as to how to proceed. So here's major roads. We anticipate pretty steady expenditure. You can see strong fund balance there. Road construction, nominal at $11 million proposed, $11.2 million proposed, and ending fund balance still strong. We don't want to, we don't want to maintain fund balance there. We want to be spending it down to a responsible level to keep resources literally out on the street to improve our critical infrastructure. So you can see the major road projects include Orchard Lake Road right-of-way acquisition, the industrial park number 1, 2, and 3 construction, and tri-party and bi-party. That's county and state cooperation, and 12-mile road signals. Local road fund summary. This is neighborhood roads. So the first one I mentioned, major roads. That's arterial roads. Local roads are neighborhood roads. Again, steady as she goes. We are looking at road construction a little bit higher, about 16.9, almost $17 million. So you can see local road mill and fill, that continues apace. Heritage Hills, Wedgewood Commons Phase 4, Quaker Valley Roads, sub-roads, and so on. So lots of items in the hopper. So a city-wide capital expenditure look, $37 million, is almost as high as last year, as this current year actually, which should wind up around $39 million. And so it's really great. When there's no, academics will tell you there's no theory of budgeting, but I will tell you that that it's key to see infrastructure investments that are steady, that look like a program. And these really look like a program. And you look back over the last 5 years of investments in roads and drains and sidewalks and equipment, each one of those line items looks pretty steady, and that's a really good thing. So I just wanted to mention real quick too, while we're talking about this, before we get to questions, that this budget does, as I mentioned, include 3 shift sergeants for the fire department in the fire department's general fund budget, and then an offsetting amount of ALS fees, which is actually somewhat higher than that cost. Then the public safety millage, $800,000 will fund 5 firefighters, and then 3 police officers out of the public safety fund. Now, the shift sergeants are necessary to, you approved 8 fire personnel, that's 3 shift sergeants, 5 fire personnel. That's a necessary mix of command and staff personnel in order to restart the full 24/7 operations of Station 3. So all this is being done according to the resources that we have in play and without any increases in taxes, so.
Question, Mr. Bridges?
Tom, I want to thank you for your presentation, and I will also compliment you. I think you provide a good narrative regarding the city's financial outlook, and I think that your presentation content does a lot regarding clarity regarding the city's financial position. So I want to thank you for that. I mean, but the city has been blessed to have terrific financial directors over the years. That's the reason why residents in our community are very happy with Farmington Hills in regards to how it's run. And we've had good stewardship there with in the city. So our residents are very happy with Farmington Hills regarding the quality of life, and also we are a well-run city. And question for you: when I arrived on City Council in 2008, the break between residential, commercial, and industrial was like 65% residential, 35% CNI. What is it now?
It is 70% residential now.
Sorry?
70% residential.
70%.
Yep.
Is that a benefit, or how do you view that?
I think that's a good thing, you know, because residential is generally more stable. I mean, you want to see a mix. You wouldn't want to necessarily see it get a whole lot higher than that. But I mean, it's not bad to see that go up, because as a general rule, residential will pull from the entire economic region of businesses for its stability, whereas, you know, commercial, you know, may go up or down a lot faster depending upon the business cycle.
Excellent. The demand for housing in Farmington Hills is pretty strong, isn't it? Would you say the demand for
Correct.
housing? We have a short. I don't know if you look at the real estate inventory for Farmington Hills. We're tracking with a very low supply of housing being available. Is that correct in our city?
Yes, it's in high demand for sure. Yes.
And that pushes up residential prices.
Yes, it has been, although we have seen, you know, Matt Dingman, our assessor, and I have been tracking these numbers. We have seen some, you know, some warning signs that certainly the boom has subsided.
Oh, really?
You know, and so we're, you know, we haven't seen any fall off anywhere, but we're certainly not anticipating, you know, very large growth in the future. The good news is that the 2-year study period for property assessments that applies to the 24 assessment year, okay, that's next year, that's already been completed, and so the values that we've projected already reflect the sales that have taken place.
Right.
So while the state could theoretically change the sales period on us, which all bets are off if they do that, but if things remain as they are, we already know that there's going to be a greater than 5% increase in the 24-25
Really?
property taxes. Yes.
Wow. I know in my neighborhood, houses are going up. I mean, the prices of sale houses surprised me how much money people are getting for the houses in my neighborhood. And I mean, really. So anyway, commercial industrial taxes. I mean, there was a problem. There was concern regarding the fact that COVID would impact commercial industrial prices because of the issue regarding occupancy of commercial buildings. You stated there was an increase in CNI
Yes.
commercial.
So far, we haven't seen that, but I think as Val has pointed out many times, you know, we have multi-year leases that are still in effect, and as those leases run out, you know, we could see kind of this next generation of office space utilization come into play. That could be, you know, that could be a big drop potentially. So we were keeping our eyes on that. We saw Google pull out, which was sad, obviously, and we've seen some multi-million-dollar appeals pop up. So far, the total amount of appeals is not remarkable in any way, but, you know, again, we're keeping our eye on that.
Your budget deliberations with other departments, do you, of course, you're involved in making sure that everything is what the city needs. You're the guy that could come in, you're the bean counter.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's your job to make sure that budgets are, and requests are what the city can afford to pay, and we appreciate you, Tom. So Tom, thank you for your work with the finance department. I think that the city's in good hands with you regarding the finances of the city, and just continue on what we're doing. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Any other questions or comments? I just have one. Respectfully, I disagree with you on the 70-30 split. Used to be that commercial was 40%, residential was 60%. Now, more and more money to run the operations of the city is coming out of individual homeowners. And the business owners are paying less and less toward their police, fire, roads, and other things. I was complaining about that years ago when they started to get rid of the personal property tax and make some major shifts. I still think it's not the best way to go, because every time we have to raise taxes, it's not evenly split between our business and our residential community. So that's the only thing I'm going to say. Other than that, are there any questions? If not, is there a motion?
Mayor, it's public hearing.
Oh, public hearing. I was getting so excited.
Need the gavel, the gavel.
Okay, so nobody come up and challenge me on the 40-60 split right now. That was John Anhut's number years ago, and I thought he was right then. I think he's right now. Open the public hearing on the budget. If anybody would like to come forward and talk about the budget, please do. If not, that's great, and we'll just close the public hearing and go to a vote. Okay, no one's rushing forward. Close the public hearing. Is there a motion? Mr. Bridges.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move the council adopt the 2023-2024 fiscal year budget and 2023 property tax millage rates.
Support.
It's been moved by Mr. Bridges, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Bruce. Again, good job to our finance director and our finance department. And just want to quick point out that there are, we've adopted a 3-year budget cycle. So in case you are interested in how we are keeping up with our neighbors, we are ahead of the score. Most of our neighbors still have a year one and then a potential next year. We have a very strong year one, very strong year two, and then we have a contingent year 3 that keeps us on track for where we're going. And I want to thank Mr. Scribola for moving us in that direction. This is a roll call vote.
Council members Massey,
Yes.
Knoll,
Yes.
Bridges,
Yes.
Bruce,
Yes.
Newland,
Yes.
Bolaware,
Yes.
and Mayor Barnett.
Yes.
Thank you.
Now we move on to unfinished business, consideration of approval of enactment of ordinance C-7-2023, amending the city code, chapter 34, zoning to amend the official zoning map in order to rezone the property located at 29400 Orchard Lake Road from B-4 Planned General Business District to B-3 General Business District, rezoning request 1/2/2023, and approval, a summary for publication.
Mayor, this is the second reading of this ordinance amendment. It was first heard at the May 22nd meeting. I apologize. Our Community Development Director was out with a family issue this evening, so maybe Steve, you can.
No, I mean, that's inaccurate. You had this before you at your last meeting. It is second reading and adoption.
Right. To remind everybody, this is the property on Orchard Lake Road near 13 Mile Road that is being, they requested a rezoning. It went through the Planning Commission speedily, came here. We voted on the introduction of the ordinance. This is now the second reading or the final approval of the ordinance change. Is there any discussion? Is there a motion? Ms. Val Knoll.
I will make a motion to approve the enactment of ordinance C-7-2023, amending city code chapter 34 zoning to amend the official zoning map in order to rezone the property located at 29400 Orchard Lake Road from B4 Planned General Business District to B3 General Business District. Rezoning request 1-2-2023. And approve the summary for publication.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Knowles, seconded by Councilmember Newland. Any discussion? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote.
Council members Knoll,
Yes.
Bridges,
Yes.
Bruce,
Yes.
Newland,
Yes.
Bolaware,
Yes.
Massey,
Yes.
and Mayor Barnett.
Yes.
Thank you.
Next item is new business. Number 7, consideration of adopting a resolution establishing water rates for fiscal year 2023-24, CMR 6-23-69. Hello.
Hello. Good evening, Mayor Barnett and City Council. My name's Tammy Gushert. I'm one of the senior engineers with the Department of Public Services. Before you tonight, there's two resolutions for your consideration. The first resolution is for the adoption of the water rates for fiscal year 23-24, and the second resolution attached to that CMR is for the adoption of updated miscellaneous water and sewer charges. The water rate being presented tonight is the same rate which was discussed with City Council at the April 24th study session with Oakland County WRC. And we're recommending an increase in the current rate of $45.21 to $49.02 per MCF, or 1,000 cubic feet of water used. This equates to an increase of $6.09 per quarter for the minimum water bill customer, and an increase of approximately $14.86 per quarter for the average residential water customer. It's also worth noting, as we always like to do, that our water tower continues to save the city ratepayers money each year. It's estimated that the savings for this upcoming fiscal year 23-24, it will be approximately $2.57 million, with an overall savings of about $22.6 million since its initial construction. So with that, staff from Oakland County WRC as well as the city are here and available to answer any questions that you might have.
Does anybody have any questions? I have one comment. I noticed that for our individuals who are water only because they have a septic field, that we are making arrangements if they would wish to have a separate water meter put on their house, they can do that, and then they would have a meter reading for their water instead of whatever they're getting now, which tends to be very high for them. And I wanted to thank you for putting that in as one of our options. And I understand that with some of our homeowners that may have financial issues, that we are working with them to get them a hardship problem-solving solution so that they are not out-of-pocket money that they cannot afford. So I also wanted to thank you for that. Is there any discussion on the water rates? Is there a motion? Mr. Bruce?
Madam Mayor, I would move the adoption of the resolution establishing water rates for fiscal year 2023-2024, CMR 62369.
Is there a second? It's been moved by Councilmember Bruce, seconded by Councilmember Boulware. Any further discussion? Seeing none, this is a regular vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, 0. It passes 6-0 with one new absence.
There's a second resolution with this topic? No, there are two resolutions with this one item?
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay.
Correct.
So
The
we'll need
miscellaneous.
Another vote.
Okay,
No, this
so-
is another water one.
So then, do I need to amend my?
No, you can just make a second motion for the second resolution.
I'll make the second
Sure.
motion then.
Two separate ones for the water.
It is further recommended that the city council adopt a attached resolution acknowledging and affirming miscellaneous water and sewer charges to facilitate ongoing operation and maintenance of the city's public water supply and sanitary sewage disposal systems. That's it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Dr. Bruce, seconded by Councilmember Boulware. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? It passes 6-0 with one absence. Next item is number 8, consideration of adopting a resolution establishing sewer rates for fiscal year 2023-24, CMR 6-23-70.
So sewer rates for fiscal year 23-24 were also presented and discussed with council at the April 24th study session. Tonight, we are recommending an increase in the current rate of $47.12 to $53 per 1,000 cubic feet or MCS of water used. This equates to an increase of $9.41 per quarter for the minimum sewer bill customer and an increase of $23.52 per quarter for the flat rate or sewer-only customers. And as Mayor Barnett alluded to a little bit ago, city staff has also been working with the Oakland County WRC on establishing a procedure which gives sewer-only customers the option to purchase and install a meter on their private well systems in order to change their quarterly billing from the flat rate charge to a calculated amount, which will be based on the metered well water usage or the minimum bill, whichever is higher. So we are currently working with the city's communication team as well as WRC on appropriate outreach for this new procedure for those residential customers who will be impacted by that and who will have that option if they so choose. So with that, we're available to answer any questions.
Any questions? Seeing none, is there a motion?
Sure. I'll make a motion that in accordance with Article 8, Section 33-265, Division 3 of the City Code, we adopt the resolution to establish the sewer rates for the fiscal year 23-24.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Knowles, seconded by Councilmember Bolaware. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Passes 6-0 with one absence. Is there any more that we have to do with this? No second motion?
No, not on this one.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is item number 9, consideration of approval of an incubator use and participation agreement with Comprehensive GI Solutions, PLLC, CMR 6-23-71.
Hello again. Subsequent to the presentation that the EDC Chair and Vice Chair provided earlier, the license agreement on the agenda before you, which has been reviewed by the hatchery and the city staff, is the first step in the incubator's operation. Attorney Steve Jopek and I are here to field any questions that council may have.
Does anybody have any questions? So it establishes a basic rate of, where was I reading it? The basic rate will be for this company is how much a month? 17?
$1,950 per month.
Okay, thank you. And then it will go up $65 a month every year?
Correct, for any extended terms.
Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none? Mr. Bridges?
I have a motion, Mayor.
Okay.
Okay. Madam Mayor, I move that council approve the incubator use and participation agreement with Comprehensive GI Solutions, PLLC, CMR 62371.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Bridges, seconded by Councilmember Massey. Any further questions? Seeing none, this is a regular vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, it passes 6-0 with one absence. And that brings us down to additions to the agenda. There are none, so we have an attorney's report. Any questions on the attorney report?
Nope.
Hearing none, I will move that, I will ask somebody to move for adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
There's a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Everybody seconds. Okay. So, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, it passes 6-0, one absence, and thank you all very much for all of your hard work. This was an amazing meeting, and we accomplished a lot tonight. I thank you all, and wish you all a wonderful summer. Stop for bicyclists, slow down in neighborhoods, move to the right of the road when you see an emergency vehicle, when you see a school bus, please go gently forward if they do not have their stop signs on, and if they do, make sure you come to a complete stop. Good night, Farmington Hills.